Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, The Man Crisis. Learn why so many men are struggling to find their way in an increasingly gynocentric world in The Man Crisis. Get your copy of The Man Crisis in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today.
Former President Barack Obama says that women are better leaders than men. And when I take a critical examination of this statement your Barack Obama has made, it is not coming from a place of objectivity. It is coming from a place of extreme bias, because your President Barack Obama was the product of a single mother household, so he's going to elevate a woman as a leader because that's the environment he grew up in. However, when you take a critical examination of leadership overall, men are better leaders overall. And that's because the Most High living God has made the man to be a leader. This is what the Most High living God created men to be, because men are primarily His stewards over the earth, and they have been given dominion over the earth by the Most High living God. So a man is a natural leader because God created a man to be a leader. Meanwhile, He made a woman to be a helpmeet and a support to a man, and her job is to help men take care of the earth. Unfortunately, your Barack Obama does not know much about God's natural order, and that's why there was so much chaos during his 2 terms of being president of the United States, because anyone who has objectively looked at all of the statistics out there knows that female-headed leadership is not very good or effective whatsoever, because all you have to do is take a look at places like the black community, which has been a matriarchy for the last 50 years, and you can see the clear chaos that is there because females are leading the black community. And while they lead the black community, they have been ruling over ashes for the last 50 years, while foreigners outside of the community have reaped over $3.3 trillion in cash and credit, and 97% of the dollars in the black community go out of the black community and are not reinvested in the citizens of the black community, and 3% of those dollars go into the hands of a black pastor, who then takes those dollars out of the black community, making it where 100% of all the economic resources leave the black community and strand that community in poverty. That is what happens when you have matriarchal leadership in charge over a community over an extended period of time, like the last 50 years. And what we're seeing now in America right now is an ongoing man crisis in this country due to the continuing increase in the rise of single mother households. Because when you have females in charge of a household, what they do is they raise the boys to be extremely emotional. They raise them to become these soft beta males, and these beta males do not grow up to become functioning, healthy adults. So under the leadership of most of these single mothers in this country, we have seen the rise of a beta male population, and this beta male population has grown up over the last 50 years to become 80% of the criminals in this country, 80% of the inmates in most prisons, 70% of the high school dropouts, 80% of the homeless, 80% of the drug addicts, and almost 70% of all people with mental health issues. All of these numbers can be correlated with data from numerous sources that show the complete ineffectiveness of matriarchal leadership over the home. But your Barack Obama, he will sit there and claim that women are better leaders than men, when we statistically clearly see that your women just cannot lead a household, and when she does lead a household, that household, again, is nothing but chaos, because either she is raising a boy to become one of these dysfunctional beta males who just does not know how to function in society because he has learned female life skills instead of male life skills that will help him cope and survive in the world, or she's raising a dysfunctional daughter who will grow up to eventually become yet another single mother, just like she is right now. And when it comes down to your women running a matriarchal community, because women are not natural builders, they don't build any sort of businesses or trade or commerce in that community that allows that community to enrich itself. No, that community winds up, because these women don't know how to start businesses or build businesses or employ people in the community, that community winds up turning into a ghetto. And the reason why it becomes a ghetto is because you don't have people in the community building any businesses to create an economic base for that community. Then you have foreigners like the Korean nails and hair salons in most black communities, or these Arab-owned stores, or these Indian fast food franchises coming to communities. And these people take $3.3 trillion out of a black community, and now they're starting to take money out of white communities and non-black communities as well. And this, again, is all due to female leadership. The same leadership that your Barack Obama alleges is so much better than your male leadership. Now, your Barack Obama also likes to talk about corporate America and all these great so-called female leaders as well. And also there, the statistics also show that female leadership is not as good as male leadership, because yes, many of these women are getting these college degrees and they are entering these professions. However, they don't stay long enough to learn anything, because in professions like teaching, you will get a woman who will get a college degree and then she will get a job teaching, and then in a year she will have resigned that job, and then she will be stuck with a whole bunch of debt. And what they're finding right now, statistically, is that a lot of these women, yes, they are getting these degrees, but when they enter the profession and they find out how much work is involved, how much challenge is involved, they oftentimes wind up quitting these jobs within 5 years or less. And when they quit these jobs in 5 years or less, they just show that they just can't cut the mustard as related to these professions. Because in the first 5 years of entering a profession, usually that's when you are just learning the basics. And a lot of the women, they come into the professions, they struggle, and then they wind up resigning sooner rather than later. So how are they better leaders than men when they can't handle the first couple of obstacles as related to the challenges of a job? Now, there are some women who come into executive positions, like the woman who ran Yahoo, like the woman who ran General Motors right now, but they just don't do as well as a man in a leadership role. And the reason why they just don't do as well as a man in a leadership role is because your woman primarily is an emotional person, and she often does things based on feelings and not takes a moment to sit down and think about it critically. For example, you have the CEO of YouTube, who oftentimes creates policies based on just knee-jerk reactions to things, rather than taking a moment to really sit down and think about things and create policies that are effective to helping everyone, like the complete mishandling of the whole COPPA thing that led to people becoming absolutely terrified about losing their channels. A rational thinking person would have just said there was a third option for general audiences and put that on the table, instead of having people scared that they were going to lose their channels. But when you have an emotional thinker going out here, they want to get the attention and the drama, and they're thinking about getting that attention and the drama rather than taking care of the business. And another thing that makes female leadership really bad is that you have females, they oftentimes focus on social things rather than things as related to things to the product or the service. So everything about them is about having that social environment. Everything is about being comfortable, and everything is about stating feelings, but nothing is about maintaining a standard as related to service. maintaining a standard as related to product, and maintaining good customer relations as to making sure that the product is up to standard. Oftentimes, these things go out the window because the woman is more focused on social aspects rather than focusing on the logical aspects of business. Now, your man, he will focus primarily on the logical aspects of the business, which is making sure that the products are up to speed, making sure the products meet a certain standard for quality, and making sure that the customer is satisfied as related to the product being up to a standard related to quality, and making sure that the customer gets a professional service. Whereas your woman is more focused on social things and making the customer happy, but not thinking of listening to the customer's needs. Because your woman, in many cases, when she's trying to lead something, she oftentimes is out here and she's leading, but she's not listening. And that's another big problem because women have a bad case of selective hearing, and they only hear what they want to hear. And that's something that makes them very ineffective when you put them in a leadership position, because when you are a leader, you need to be a critical thinker. And a critical thinker, they're going to listen to everything someone says, not the parts that they want to hear. So you'll have many women out there, they want to say that they are leaders, but oftentimes when they lead, they often wind up falling into a ditch because oftentimes they are focused on building a social place to work in where they can feel comfortable and get their emotional needs met, like in the case of Yahoo, where they made an effort to try to fire almost all the executives there and managers there who were keeping that company functioning, to replace them with women so that the company would be a place that was comfortable to women. And and places like Marvel Comics, where you have Sana Amanat, who is running Marvel into the ground because she is not focused on product, she is focused on feelings and focused on pushing her diversity agenda. And you have other women, again, like the General Motors CEO, who has not really done a great job of running GM because GM now is making less cars and making more SUVs, but not really advertising as much, because one of the reasons why GM sales are down is, one, the high prices, and two, all of the lack of advertising, because I don't see any advertising for any General Motors cars anymore. But the female CEO, she thinks she's doing a great job, but when I compare her performance to other CEOs, she's just completely ineffective and completely clueless to selling cars to a primarily male audience of buyers. So I'm looking at these female CEOs, and oftentimes when they get in charge of a company, that company often struggles because, again, many women focus on building a social environment where they and their clique have everything that they want, but then they don't focus on the needs of their employees, and they don't focus on the needs of the customer. It's all about creating a fiefdom where they can feel comfortable about getting what they want and making the business serve them, but not making the business in a place where it serves the customer. And all of this goes over the head of your Barack Obama, and it goes over the head of your Barack Obama because your Barack Obama was a beta male who was raised in a single mother household. And because he was raised in a single mother household, he cannot see the flaws as related to female leadership, because female leadership, oftentimes, it's just not as effective as male leadership, because oftentimes, again, because your female is focused on the short term, she is focused on getting her emotional needs met and not thinking about the economic needs of everyone or the overall needs of the business. She's not designed for long-term thinking by the Most High Living God. She's designed for basic short-term care of the children and short-term care of the home. And that's what makes her not a very good leader to put in positions like management or executive positions in most cases, because many women just aren't that good at focusing on the long term because they're focused on their feelings and not focused on the overall long-term needs of everyone as related to everything. But the Most High Living God, He made the man to be the head of household. He made the man to be a steward. He made the man to be a leader. And when that man is properly raised by a father in the home and a caring mother, he grows up to become a balanced individual. And this balanced individual, he can think about setting long-term goals for everyone in his family. He can think about setting long-term goals for his home. He can think about setting long-term goals for his business. And he can think about setting long-term goals for the overall community that he's a part of when he works with other men. And when those men work together as setting long-term goals, they can establish a set of benchmarks to meet. They can set a standard for what they want to have in their community, They set a standard for a quality of living in their community, and they can make sure that everyone gets a consistent standard of living and has a consistent quality of life. That is what people get under patriarchal leadership, under the leadership of men, and that's something your Barack Obama discounts as relates to male leadership, because he has lived under female leadership and he thinks it works, but he just doesn't understand how effective male leadership works, because when a man has rock solid male life skills, he can provide for everyone and make sure that everybody is not only comfortable, but make sure that they're secure, and he can look out for people's safety. And that's something, again, your Barack Obama wasn't very good at as President of the United States, because your Barack Obama came from a single mother, female-headed household. And because he came from a single mother, female-headed household, his presidency on the outside was a smooth world for him, but it was chaos for everybody else, because he did not think about the needs of black people. He did not think about the racial tensions in this country. He did not listen to anyone because he had selective hearing as related to the issues of cases like Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, Eric Garner, and numerous black men who were killed by the police like Walter Scott, Alton Sterling, Philando Castile. He couldn't see the racial tensions bubbling in this country because he had selective hearing. And because he had selective hearing, he couldn't hear the rumblings that Donald Trump was bubbling up as related to the case of George Zimmerman. Because if he had listened to the rumblings of George Zimmerman, he would have directed his Attorney General, Eric Holder, to file federal charges against him so that Donald Trump would not have the ammunition to develop his campaign to run for president in 2016. Your Barack Obama is the man solely responsible, as I see it, for Donald Trump getting that momentum, because had he stopped George Zimmerman, there wouldn't be a Donald Trump in the White House right now, and that was all due to his ineffective leadership that he learned in that matriarchal household with that single mother. And when you hear this man sitting there talking about how females are better leaders, we can just take a look at him, and he is a textbook example of why female leadership is just not effective at all. Because as the former president of these United States, he is one of the worst presidents since Jimmy Carter, and I'd say he's one of the worst presidents since Herbert Hoover, because he promised hope and change to people, but he did not deliver. And for him to sit there and say female leadership is better than male leadership shows how completely out of touch your Barack Obama is, and how completely out of touch he is with reality, because again, the Most High living God made a man to be the leader of this earth. He gave him dominion over this earth, and he made him a steward over this earth. And when you look at a man like Barack Obama elevating a woman over a man, it shows that he is not fit to be a steward under God's standard as a man. If you'd like to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. And if you want to learn what makes a man an extremely dysfunctional individual like Barack Obama, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited. Isis, All That Glitters. The goddess next door takes on a bikini-clad bank robber in this action-packed all-new Isis series adventure. Get Isis, All That Glitters in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today.